Authorities in Mille Lacs held a press conference this morning to release new information in a homicide investigation. Last week, law enforcement responded to reports of human remains found inside of a tote on the shores of Lake Mille Lacs. The medical examiner's office has identified the victim as 25-year-old Rodney Pendergast Jr. of Isle. His family reported him missing the day before his body was found. Charges have since been filed against 21-year-old Bradley Allen Weyes of Isle and 21-year-old Alexis Elling of Rochester. That's in connection to the case. Today, authorities gave us an updated look. Take a listen.
While en route to that scene, there's a vehicle in front of one of our detectives who's responding lights and siren to get there. And we believe that vehicle was driven by Mr. Weyes at the time. So this investigator's got his lights and siren on trying to get to the scene, and there's a white Saturn in front of him. It's not moving over to the right like a normal motorist would do when they see red and blue lights behind him. This person actually accelerates and takes off. So at this point, the investigator is actually in a pursuit for a short while. The location that this is happening is just south of our scene. So this white Saturn is actually traveling north on Twilight Road towards the scene of where this tote is at. And right before the vehicle, this white Saturn, gets up just south of where that scene, it turns. There's a little cutover, a crossover road right there that connects 169 and Twilight Road. Makes a hard left and gets back onto 169 and continues north. At that point, the deputy terminates the pursuit and just continues on to the scene. But he radios the information to the other officers in the area about this white Saturn. So let me back up here for a second. So the investigator that was behind this white Saturn, he had some information that Mr. Weyes, Bradley Weyes, who's one of our defendants in this that's in custody, might be in possession of this white Saturn and might be in possession of a black tote. Some witnesses had seen him in the days previous to this in possession of this black tote. So the officers get up to this address on Southport Road, 18027, and they find this white Saturn, which is basically stuck in the driveway. It appears the vehicle kind of pulled into the driveway in haste, got stuck. Nobody's inside the vehicle. They talk to the homeowners there. The homeowners tell them that a person got out of this car carrying some duffel bags. They described the duffel bags as appearing to not be full of anything. In other words, they were kind of loose. And the person runs into a camper trailer on the property and, to their knowledge, is still in that trailer. So officers surround the trailer. We had help from Mille Lacs Tribal Police, and then our deputies were all kind of in that area. And eventually they find Bradley Weyes hiding in the back corner of this trailer where he's taken into custody. So inside of the duffel bags, when they actually execute the warrant, they find a hacksaw, they find a hammer, they find some black tape similar to the tape that's on the black plastic tote. We do another search warrant later that evening at this second location, which is 227 Main Street in Isle, Apartment 3. And that is the apartment is occupied by Mr. Weyes and in his grandmother. It's actually his grandmother's apartment. Inside of that, we find some additional evidence, both inside the apartment and then in a dumpster outside in the alley behind the apartment, to include some bloody carpet that's been cut and rolled up, more gloves. We find a receipt for a hardware store in Onamia where some of this stuff appears to have been purchased, i.e. the gloves, tape, that kind of a thing. And then we find our victim, which is Rodney Pendergast Jr. We find his ID also in the dumpster. Thursday, March 23rd, 2023, Alexis Elling is taken into custody in Onamia on a traffic stop in a gas station parking lot. We had knowledge that she's in a romantic relationship with our suspect, Bradley Weyes. We obtained some surveillance video in our canvassing of that Isle location, the apartment where we did the warrant. There's a business across the street that has some surveillance video, which we're still in the process of going through. It's about a week's worth of video. But we do have who we believe to be Alexis Elling and also Bradley Weyes on video carrying that tote out of the apartment on or about the 19th, which should have been Sunday, so a few days before we actually discovered the body. They placed that tote into a black Chevy Impala. From there, it goes to an address in Waukon where Alexis Elling had been staying. The car is actually owned by her roommate, who we're not going to name at this time. We did seize that vehicle as well, that black Impala. BCA also processed that vehicle. And Alexis is in our jail. She was charged. She had outstanding warrants for her arrest, so she was booked on those. In addition to that, the county attorney charged her with aiding an offender, with the controlling offense being second-degree intentional murder. So she's being held on $500,000 bail. Bradley Wias is being held on $600,000 bail. So, brings us to the why, which is what a lot of folks are wondering. Motive. So on January 10th, 2023, at this address that I just referenced, which is 37793 Stevens Road, Brandon Elling, who is the brother of Alexis Elling, dies of an overdose from fentanyl that morning, January 10th, at that residence. The medical examiner confirmed it was an overdose involving fentanyl and a mixture of methamphetamine. Rodney Pendergast Jr.'s name is mentioned to law enforcement as possibly having been involved with that. We can't confirm that he was 100% involved in it, but his name was mentioned by witnesses that were there. We were actually, before discovering Mr. Pendergast deceased, this was an open investigation and still is into that overdose death to figure out who sold Mr. Elling those narcotics and who, whether it was Rodney or anyone else, would have been involved in that. So those are all details we're still ironing out, and that investigation, separate from this one, is still ongoing at this time. So that is what we suspect at this time would be the motive.
Keep watching CBS News Minnesota for continuing coverage.